Hey guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to continue on with our read-along of Urha. Let's jump right in. Chapter 94. This venerable one sees the heavenly rift again. Mild violence and gore for the rest of book 1. Oh no. Okay, here comes the knives, guys. Nan Gongzi looked displeased, his gaze dark like rolling molten iron. The line of his sight scanned past and paused for a moment on Moran's blazing red holy weapon before it moved on. Who's that? He's the Gongzi from Sisheng Peak, surnamed Mo, Ye Wangxi replied. Mo? Nan Gongzi knitted his brows slightly. The one that was picked off the street some years ago? Nan Gongzi gave Ye Wangxi a side-eyed glance. You know him? We resided in the same place at Peach Blossom Springs. Nan Gongzi sneered. Who knew what that meant, but when Ye Wangxi saw his reaction, his quietly handsome face paled some, eyelashes drooping. Then he pursed his lips and fell silent. Since he has to keep waiting, then I might as well grant him some face, Nan Gongzi said. A master of a holy weapon at such a young age, I gotta see what he's made of. Moran, however, had no time to mind the Rufeng sect. He turned around, his ropes whipping in the wind. The barrier had already cracked. There wasn't much time left. Chuaning, are you not done yet? Sha! Lo Xianxian's nails ripped through the silk curtain. The white cloth fluttered, and the plain fabric was shaken into thousands of pieces of falling snow. Chuaning only sensed an incredibly familiar presence, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He widened his eyes. Tianwen? No, it wasn't Tianwen. But when he parried with her, there was an energy that was incredibly similar to Tianwen coming from her person. The inner curtains of the huge Chen Manor were like a thin mist, locking within it a living soul, a vicious ghost. After having exchanged a dozen moves, the fog in Chuaning's mind dispersed, and a thought struck him, waking him up. Suddenly he understood. Heartpluck Willow. Lo Xianxian was already dead, her body cremated to ashes. Back then, she could only depend on old Madame Chen's body in order to haunt, so there was no reason why she should be able to show her true form now. That mysterious man had taken a withered branch of the Heartpluck Willow and temporarily fabricated a shell for her, allowing for her soul to come back. The broiled hearts of the people outside and the steaming haze of fumes. Metal, water, fire, earth. They were all waiting for Xianxian's wood, the body of the Heartpluck Willow. Just what was that man planning? Had he gone through all this trouble just to have Lo Xianxian regain her flesh body so she could slaughter her way into the ghost realm to be with Chen Bohuan once more? Who would do all this for her? All her relatives had died. Relatives. A relative! Something stirred in Chuaning's mind, and his blood boiled and rushed. He suddenly recalled, back when he first met Lo Xianxian, she had told him something. She had a brother who'd gone missing many years ago. Was it him? All in my path shall die! Lo Xianxian was a real flesh body. Chuaning was a living soul. While her spiritual powers were nowhere near his, when Salat met ear, they were evenly matched for the moment. In the blink of an eye, her blood-red nails came lunging towards his heart. In order for his soul not to suffer damage, Chuaning abruptly dodged, then flipped his hand and tapped between her brows. It's useless. You can do it however many times you want, but the purification spell can't hurt me. She laughed savagely, throwing her head back to howl to the heavens, and summoned from all around them bands of corpses from Butterfly Town. You feral ghosts, obey my command! Gather here and drink blood till there is no more! Terrifying wails and howling started to ring. Butterfly Town had been trampled to complete pandemonium, and the berserking, heartless undead all came rushing to the Chen Manor when they heard her call. The walking corpses came pouring like a flood, shrieking and roaring like crashing waves dying in the howling winds. The blood-curdling cries were like the screams of a battlefield, and in an instant, all could hear them clearly, inside and outside the barrier. Outside the barrier, the cultivators were shaken. Inside, Chuaning battled all alone. There was only his silhouette, his lone soul, a streak of white standing before Lo Xianxian. She was laughing in glee, madness and wretchedness filling the depths of her eyes. But a gentleman was like a bamboo, and he remained unfazed in the face of hundreds of ghosts. Only his brows were furrowed deeply, a layer of gloom shadowing over his eyes. Lo Xianxian, do you still remember what you once told me? She didn't seem to expect he'd ask this, and was slightly taken aback. In her daze, Chuaning had already flapped open his sleeves and leapt onto the top of the courtyard of the Chen Manor. His silk boots, untainted and pristine, landed upon the edge of the black sandalwood eaves. You once told me you never wanted to become a vicious ghost, and you also said you didn't want to hurt anyone. As his voice dropped, winds from all around picked up. Chuaning raised his gaze and looked over, and saw a heavy black trope of corpses pouring in from every direction. He knitted his brows slightly and suddenly swung an expansive sleeve, the haunting winds whipping the robes of this living soul. Between his hands, there was suddenly a golden glow. Please excuse my offense. All of a sudden, thousands of willow vines pulled out from the ground. Blood flowed all over Butterfly Town. Dead corpses covered the ground, and in an instant, millions of gashes opened. Thick and strong roots of willow trees broke through the earth, one after the other. They glowed a blinding gold, appearing like millions of chains, and bound every fleeing corpse. Chuaning's eyes were closed, his long hair a whipping mess before a face as cold as melting snow in a stream. He called darkly, Tianwen, 10,000 coffins. Then his eyes flashed open, blazing like lightning. Those rows upon rows of golden, drooping willows suddenly flashed brilliantly, and countless branches started sprouting out and growing in dense numbers, trapping those walking corpses that were still roaring and struggling. Then right after, a gap cracked open in every willow tree, and as the hole widened, the trees dragged all the dead into the gaping hole before brutally sealing them within. 10,000 coffins. The largest drooping willow emerged from the courtyard of the Chen's household, and fast like the sharpest arrow, it chased after the dodging Lo Xianshen. However, that Lo Xianshen had a body made from the Heartpluck Willow herself. Heartpluck Willow, Tianwen, Jiangui, they were all born of the same body. All seeds Go Chen Shanggong had brought to the mortal realm from the heavens, and so the 10,000 coffins of Tianwen couldn't immediately catch up to the small and swift shadow of Lo Xianshen. Her vividly red robes, embroidered with a golden phoenix, rolled in the winds like waves as the giant willow followed after her, pulling taller and taller, breaking through the barrier and gunning straight for the skies. Outside the barrier, the entire crowd was shocked into silence by this sky-shattering tree. There were some with weaker spiritual powers who already couldn't hang on, their legs going weak by the Zhongshi's oppressive presence, and they fell to their knees soundly. The willow tree that sprouted with the spirit of Tianwen grew taller and taller, almost to the point where they could reach the moon. Chuaning had unleashed his spiritual powers to a point he never had before. There were already cultivators around Butterfly Town whose eyes were bloodshot, and even Nan Gongsi, with his cultivation, was having difficulties breathing, his chest tight and his heart beating rapidly. Nan Gongsi gritted his teeth. A character like this exists at Sisheng Peak, Yu Heng Elder. Next to him, Li Wuxin was calm. He was the head of a sect after all, so he could still hang on. Nan Gongzi, this man is Chuaning, I'm telling you. What? Under such heavy oppression, Nan Gongzi was dumbstruck, letting out an ugh as he spat out a mouthful of blood. It's Chu Zhongshi? Young master, please don't speak anymore. Seeing him hurt, Ye Wangxi raised his hand and pressed on 2 meridian points on Nan Gongzi's body, helping him circulate his spiritual powers. Yet, unexpectedly, Nan Gongzi wasn't grateful in the slightest and roughly pushed him away, wiping hatefully at the blood on his lips. Don't touch me. ...
Ye Gongzi, allow me.
Song Chu Tong was a butterfly-boned beauty feast, so she wasn't greatly affected. She came forward gracefully, her pair of eyes delicate and scared as she gazed at Ye Wangxi, nominating herself in a small voice. However, Ye Wangxi didn't seem to be as friendly as he was when they first met, and actually ignored her. Having received the cold shoulder, Song Chu Tong turned her head to gaze at Nan Gongzi with her watery eyes. Nan Gongzi's attitude towards her had become much better since the beginning, but he also declined. Your help isn't needed. I was just shocked by someone I hadn't seen in many years. I'm not that weak. If you have the free time, go help other people. Over on this side, Moran didn't notice at all the things that were happening between Song Chu Tong and the other 2 Gongzi of Rufeng. He dropped next to Chuaning's empty body, lifting his head to watch Chuanning's living soul engaged in the heat of battle with Lo Xianxian. Then he looked at that band of corpses temporarily sealed by thousands of willow trees, his heart and mind both alarmed and nervous. It must be known that to use a spell like this, even under normal circumstances, it exhausts spiritual powers greatly. Never mind that Chuanning's soul was currently out of his body. Just how unpredictably strong was this man's ability? Before he could finish his thought, there was a sudden splitting cry. The heart-plucked willow couldn't defeat Tianwen after all, and beneath the lonely moon, Lo Xianxian was bound by the willow tree, branches and leaves sprouting so fast she was swallowed rapidly. That gigantic sky-reaching tree enveloped her in its gap before that ancient willow that had crossed the clouds finally slowly shrank down towards the ground, gradually descending below until it finally stood equal once more with the other ancient great trees. At this point, the barrier had been completely shattered. However, since the 10,000 coffins formed by Tianwen were still keeping all the walking corpses hostage, there was no immediate danger. Xue Zhengyang didn't dare to relax, and ordered the rest of the people of Sisheng Peak to stand guard before every willow tree just in case. As for the others, they all followed the flow and dashed straight for the courtyard of the Chen Manor. Since the situation was dire, Moran didn't think too much as he immediately swept up Chuanning's cold body and rushed over too. When the group arrived, the ancient willow chaining Lo Xianxian had already transformed into a solid coffin. She lay within, her expression sometimes savage, sometimes sad, her eyes sometimes vicious, sometimes aggrieved. From her lips, two separate voices continued to switch between one another, one full of madness as it shouted, "Why do you obstruct me? Why obstruct me? You all deserve death, all of you!" The other was soft and helpless.
Yanlo Guga, is it you? Is it you who's come? Please, I beg you, save me. I don't want to hurt people, please.
Those two voices changed between each other, and after a long while, dead silence fell within the coffin. At this point, the spiritual power of Chuanning's living soul was already at its limit, barely holding on. Yet, relying on his will alone, he pressed his fingers between the brows of the girl inside the coffin. "Who are you?" The closed eyes of the female ghost slowly opened, and it was still vivid red within. Li Wuxin blurted, "Not good!" Just as he was about to charge forward to take the maiden's life, Chuanning pointed into the air and a strike of lightning dropped down, blocking his way. "Chuanning, you!" Chuanning ignored him, and only stared at the delicate girl who slowly sat up from within the coffin. She opened her blood-red eyes, yet there was not a trace of killing intent in them. Instead, they were full of panic and loss as she answered softly,
"I am Lo Xianxian."
When Chuanning heard her answer, he finally breathed in relief, dropping his lashes as his living soul dispersed. A moment later, the man in Moran's arms twitched softly, and Moran quickly put him down, letting him lean against a colonnade on the side. He bent one knee to the ground, kneeling to be at his level, and spoke. "Shizun, you're back?" Chuanning's phoenix eyes were dazed, and it took a moment before they slowly focused. He glanced at Moran. He'd exhausted too much of his spiritual powers and was a man with a weak spiritual core, and so he appeared somewhat weak, the colors of his face still better than when his soul had been out of his body, still equally pale. Chuanning responded, and leaned where he was for a moment before slowly rising to his feet, using the colonnade as support. With slow steps, he came before Lo Xianxian and dropped his eyes to gaze at her. Lo Xianxian opened her tiny mouth a little, watching him in shock.
"Yanlo Guga, why am I here? What happened?"
Other things aside. While Chuanning was physically weak, his eyes were still bright and sharp, and he cut straight to the matter. "Tell me, who was the one who fabricated your body? This is an important matter, do you understand?" Chuanning waited, but because of nervousness, his nails dug into the stone colonnade, nearly to the point of breaking.
"It's not very clear, but there are some impressions."
Lo Xianxian mumbled.
"It was a man. He...
Next to them, Xue Meng was also getting impatient. "Think harder!" Lo Xianxian strenuously tried to recall her memories.
"At the time, everything was in a daze. I really didn't see his face clearly, but I heard his voice. He's got a bit of a northern accent. It seems to be... Ah!"
She suddenly exclaimed, terror filling her face.
"I remember now! It's him! It's him! The Clementines! The Clementine thief!"
"What Clementines? What nonsense!" Shuemeng grumbled. However, Chuaning instantly understood. What she meant was that madman who chopped off the clementine tree she bumped into when she was young.
There was a man from Linyi whose heart died at 20.
Who was it? Linyi. It couldn't be Rufeng sect, could it? Was it? Yet right then, a sharp crash of thunder suddenly exploded in the sky, and the Zhenlong chest formation that enveloped the entire sky above Butterfly Town flashed red. Not good! Shui Zhengyang instantly shouted. Keep watch on the 10,000 coffins at your sides! The formation creator had probably noticed by now that something was going to happen. Oh no, he's still talking. Okay, sorry. Keep watch on the 10,000 coffins at your sides. The formation creator has probably noticed by now. Something's gonna happen. Right at that instant, sand blew and debris rolled. Smoke and dust began to rise from all around. All the cultivators were on high alert, their backs against one another, holding their long swords before them. Chuaning's eyes darkened, and he turned to Lo Xianshen. Get up. There's a white piece from that man left in your body. Don't be controlled by him any longer. I'll help you purge it. Once the white piece falls, you must leave immediately. Go to the underworld and return to the cycle of reincarnation. You must not linger in the mortal realm. Chuaning stopped. There was a sudden chill that rushed to his head, sparking in a flash. His gut instinct sensed danger, and he shouted to Lo Xianshen, "Leave! Quickly!" But it was too late.
Ah!
There was a sharp scream. From the heart of the Zhenlong chest formation in the sky above came a blood-red light, and it struck like lightning right into the willow vine-made body of Lo Xianshen. Rumble. Firelight roared to the skies. Lo Xianshen! The silhouette of the girl quickly contorted in the sea of fire, and in a split second, a wisp of a fragrant soul rose to the skies, mixing together with the thick fumes that stank of burning. The soul mingled with the fumes and the soul forming one entity. Where Lo Xianshen once stood, there was suddenly a stream of jade-green light that shot toward the heavens. A spiritual essence of the wood element. In an instant, all blood left Chuaning's face, and his eyes turned extremely hostile. He'd been thinking about this wrong. He'd been thinking about this whole thing the wrong way. Whilst alive, Lo Xianshen must have been someone who possessed a great wood elemental spiritual energy. The culprit behind the scenes wasn't trying to raise a wood elemental heart pluck willow with metal, fire, water, and earth, but instead, he was waiting for enough resentment to gather to form that crash of thunder, have it strike upon Lo Xianshen's body, and have a resentful spirit become the temporary source of the heart pluck willow. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, all 5 spirits were now complete. He could now do whatever he wanted to. Chuaning lifted his head to look at the sky. Everyone was looking at the sky. Everything stopped. In that moment, it was terrifyingly quiet. Then, all of a sudden, the earth started to quake. It was practically the same as what they had once seen in the ancient city of Linnan, in the illusion at Peach Blossom Springs. Above Butterfly Town, a gigantic purplish-black rift ripped open across the skies. Inside, it seemed to hold endless bloody chaos, death, pestilence, and hatred, like the eye of the devil himself as it slowly opened. Li Wuxin pointed at that rift and yelled with a trembling voice, "The infinite hells! The barrier to the infinite hells! It's broken! The heavenly dome above Butterfly Town has been torn! The door to the ghost realm is open!" Ooh, okay. So to recap chapter 94, Chuaning is able to push past his limits and use Tianwen to capture all of the corpses into willow vine coffins, and he also is able to subdue Lo Xianshen, and she's able to come back to herself for a little bit. She tells Chuaning that the person that had used her was the Clementine thief that she met when she was a child. Is the Clementine thief and the fake Gochen the same person? Before Chuaning could help Lo Xianshen escape and go to the underworld, her soul was taken and used to power the Heartpluck Willow. So, I don't know, is Lo Xianshen's soul gone now? Okay, let's keep continuing. Chapter 95, This Venerable One's Calamity from His Past Life. That thin layer separating the world of the yin from that of the yang was already far from the sturdy barrier it had once been in ancient times, and the occasional tears and gaps were common occurrences that hardly even warranted any alarm at all from the cultivation world. But right now, a bloody eye had ripped straight across the heavens, instantly casting the sky and the earth alike in an unnatural, eerie hue as debris whipped through the sky. A once-in-a-generation calamity, the Heavenly Rift! With the exception of Moran, none present had ever personally experienced such an immense catastrophe, and so, be it Li Wuxin with his head of white hair, Xue Zhenyang who had been through countless battles, Ru Feng sect of the upper cultivation realm, or Sisheng Peak of the lower cultivation realm, every single one of the 1,000-some people gathered here were stunned, at a complete loss for what to do. But Moran was even more terrified, as if struck by lightning. He could practically feel the thick stench of blood from the past life washing over him, the ruthless massacre, the endless spilling of blood. This was it, that very same Heavenly Rift! In the previous lifetime, this was when Shimei died. He was working to repair the barrier together with Chuaning, but due to having limited spiritual energy, he was counterattacked by the masses of ghosts and demons spilling forth, and fell from high above. But that clearly wasn't supposed to happen yet, not for another 3 years! Moran remembered that snowy night with such clarity. It was right after New Year's Eve. There were pieces of red scattered across the snowy ground from spent firecrackers, and the faint smell of smoke still lingered in the air. He had only just celebrated the New Year with everyone else the night before, indulged in the Tusu wine reserved for the occasion. Moran looked up, slightly tipsy. Under the warm light of the candle, Shimei's eyes were like the waters of spring, tender and affectionate from every angle. Sisheng Peak was alive with laughter and merriment. He had thought back then that this was wonderful, that even if he ends up never making a move on the one he liked, he'd be content just to stay by his side for the rest of his life and look at him from a distance, just like this. The festivities came to a close, and the disciples headed back in scattered groups. He and Shimei left from Mengpo Hall together, the moonlight reflected on the snowy ground lighting their way. Shimei looked a little cold, so he took off his outer robe and draped it across the other's shoulders without a word. And, emboldened by the alcohol in his system, he snuck a couple glances more than usual. Beauty like fresh snow, pure and untouchable.
Aran. You drank a little too much today.
Haha, did I? Moran laughed a little, but the rest of the laughter died in his throat, because Shimei had cupped his face with his slightly cold hands, making his already warm cheeks burn even hotter. Moran's eyes opened wide, and a tremor ran through his body. Shimei said with a smile,
Look at you, only 3 cups and your face is all red.
It is just kinda hot. Moran scratched his head goofily, his face burning up even more. He had been so easily satisfied back then, simply liking someone, not needing to have his feelings returned, not daring to dream of more. That person had only touched his face, and he already felt like he had been blessed by the heavens, staring in a daze as words abandoned him. His inky black eyes were watery with amazement and gratitude. They bid each other good night in front of the disciple quarters. Before leaving, Shimei had turned to smile toward him, draped on his robe and backlit by the beautiful glow of moonlight against the snow.
Aran!
He was already about to leave, but he whipped around like a spinning top in an almost panicked haste at the sound of his name, for fear that he might miss something. Yes?
Thanks for lending me your robe.
It's nothing, I'm hot anyway.
And...
Shimei's gaze grew even softer, so warm it could almost chase away the long winter.
Aran, actually,
Bang! A firework exploded in the distance. Moran didn't catch what he said, or perhaps Shimei didn't actually say anything more. By the time things quieted down again, Shimei was already pushing open the door to his room. Moran called out in a panic, "Wait, what did you say just now?" But Shimei was uncharacteristically teasing, blinking his eyes as he replied,
"Good things can only be said once."
Shimei! But that soul-alluring person did not I don't know how to pronounce that word. Acquiesce? Speaking with only the lower half of his elegant face visible from beneath the cold proofing curtain, bearing a soft smile that Moran would remember for the rest of his life.
"It's late. I'm going to bed. If I still feel like telling you in the morning."
He paused, soft lashes drooping like leaves of the mimosa plant.
"I'll tell you then."
But who could have known that morning would bring with it the Heavenly Rift? In the end, Moran never got to hear what Shimei had to say, and the most tender dream of his life was dyed a bloody scarlet. How many times had he dreamt of that smile on Shimei's face behind the half-rolled curtain, of how beautiful and gentle it had been. He couldn't be sure if he was seeing things, but he felt like that smile held boundless feelings. Time and again for the rest of his painful life, he dreamt the rest of that dream. In his dream, Shinmei would say that he liked him, and he would wake up grinning, happy, so happy for a moment he would even forget that Shinmei was dead, that there was already no turning back. Grinning happily, he would think about the rest of their life, thinking about what delicious foods to make for his beloved person. Such important things were worth putting some thought into, after all. But then, grinning and grinning, tears would start to roll. He buried his face in his hands. He'll never know the words that scattered into the wind on that snowy New Year's Eve. Ripping through thousands of miles of heavy clouds, the infinite hells opened. Countless evil spirits and demonic fields poured forth from the rift like a legion set to besiege a city. Screams from all around him jolted Moran abruptly from his memories. Nearly crazed, he shouted frantically, pushing through the chaos, surging crowd, beside him with panic, searching. Shimei! Shimei! Shimingjing! Where are you? Where are you? I don't know why the Heavenly Rift came 3 years early. I don't know if I can protect you the way I am right now, but I can't bear to see you get hurt again. I can't bear to watch you die again. Please, live. It's my fault for not getting strong enough to protect you right away. I was stupid, didn't think things through, didn't consider that this might happen. Where are you? Aran! Between the clashing of weapons, he heard a faint voice. Shimei! There he was, next to Xuemeng, shielding them against the onslaught of evil spirits with a screen of water. Moran ran toward him, unheeding of everything else, his throat tight and his eyes stinging. You damn mutt, get over here already and help out! Xuemeng fought with the might of 10 men, but the waves of corpses were a ceaseless tide, and more sweat appeared on his forehead as he said through gritted teeth, Hurry up! He didn't need to say any more. Moran leapt into the air, and there was a flash of red as Jian Gui answered the summon. He brandished the willow vine, and the holy weapon destroyed an entire row of the vicious ghosts in one lash, turning them instantly into dust. Moran turned his head to yell towards Shimei, Stay close! Come here behind me! I want to go help Shizun! Do not! The words struck pure fear into Moran's heart. He absolutely would not allow Shimei to go anywhere near Chuaning in this fight, not this time. His memories from the past life overlaid and blended with the sight before him now. Back then, he had said the same thing. I want to go help Shizun. All right, hurry over. It'll be safer over there with Shizun. Stay with him and let him protect you. How absurd. Let him protect you. Chuaning, Chuaning. Moran planned and calculated for every possibility, but he had forgotten to consider that that person was Chuaning. Cold-blooded and heartless, head full of the common people, but not a single care to spare his own dying disciple. Don't go over there! He can take care of himself! His entire head felt numb from the overlapping visions of 2 lifetimes. Eyes bloodshot, Moran roared towards Shimei. Don't go anywhere! Stay right here! But Shizun used up so much of his energy just now. He'll live! Just worry about yourself! Scowling darkly, he directed another powerful lash at the surging waves of undead as he spoke, sending flesh and blood flying and chunks of brain splashing to the ground. His current level of spiritual power was a far cry from what it had been in his past life, but the forms and movements came to him easy like second nature. After all, his body had been through countless battles, had crossed blades with the likes of Ye Wangxi and Chuaning. He fought on, undaunted even against the millions of savage undead. The rift in the sky grew bigger and bigger. The fiends that had been confined within the infinite hells for hundreds of years poured into the mortal realm like a violent deluge, mixing with the walking corpses of Butterfly Town that had struggled free of the willow vines on the strength from the sudden influx of yin energy. The situation grew increasingly terrifying and out of control, frenzied and frantic like a pot of boiling oil with water poured on top of it. The ghosts and demons grabbed living people and tore into them with abandon like a swarm of locusts descending on a field of crops. Those from Sisheng Peak were used to demonic encounters in their daily operations and could still hold out, but the same could not be said for Rufeng Sect and Bitan Sect, as countless ones of their cultivators screamed, blood spurting high into the air. Chuaning was too far away from Moran to see how things were on his side, but he caught sight of Ye Wangxi and Nan Gongsi amongst the mass of people. They may not get along, but their fighting styles were strikingly similar. He saw Ye Wangxi toss aside his sword to summon a long bow in a flash of blue light, while Nan Gongsi's bow was like a crescent moon in his hand. They exchanged a glance before dashing past one another to take one side each. aiming at the densest gatherings of undead corpses and drawing their bows back to the fullest. Whoosh! They released at practically the same time, the white of the arrow fletchling slashing through the skies with a sound like the screeching of birds. Tempered with spiritual power, the arrows were shrouded by blades of cutting wind as they flew through the air, ripping right through any fiends in their way. Looking quite pleased with himself, Nan Gongzi reached back for another arrow, but the quiver on his back was empty. Out already? Here. Before he even had the chance to be mad, Ye Wangshi had already tossed him another bundle of arrows. You never bring enough. Nan Gongzi scoffed, but this was hardly the time or place to be stubborn over appearances. So he accepted the arrows, and the two of them returned to their respective fights. Sorry, I should take a sip of water, but... Okay. An hour went by in no time. They beat back masses of the vicious fiends, but even more flooded out from the ghost realm to replace them. Li Wuxin cut down a dozen spirits in one slash, then turned to yell towards Xue Zhengyang, "We can't keep going like this! We have to fix the barrier!" Xue Zhengyang glanced at the 4 golden arrays glowing from the distance in each of the 4 directions of the town. He huffed out a breath and snapped back crossly. "Easy for you to say. Do you know how to fix this barrier? Do you even have anyone who knows anything about barriers?" Li Wuxin's expression was sullen. "Barriers aren't one of my sex specialties." "Then shut the F up! How many Yu-Hos do you think there are? Chuaning is holding down the 4 critical points right now. Or else, if these damn ghosts get out from the blockade, everyone at Shuzhong will be done for. If us cultivators are barely holding on, how do you expect the common folk to survive?" "Shuzhong being done for is better than the entire cultivation world being done for. If you don't get someone to go mend the heavenly rift right now, it'll be out of our hands." Xue Zhengyang's temper flared at his words, and when he swung his metal fan to summon a powerful gale toward the vicious ghost, he let it slice open Li Wuxin's cheek as if inadvertently. "And why should the people of the lower cultivation realm die just to keep your precious upper cultivation realm safe?" "Don't put words in my mouth! I'm saying that some sacrifices have to be made for the greater good. If this heavenly rift had happened at my Butan sect, I would have sacrificed my entire sect to keep the peace in the land." "What a thing to say, Li Zhuangzhu, but talk is cheap." Tiger-like eyes round with fury, Xue Zhengyang was so angry that he ended up laughing instead. "The entrance to the ghost realm is located in my Shuzhong. It is not and never will be in your Bitang sect. However many generations passed. So, what? The entirety of Sishong Peak should just sacrifice itself 1,000, 1,000,000 times for peace in the land? Li Zhuangzhu, what a thing to say!" The two were locked in stalemate, going at it while fighting off demons and fiends, when a streak of snow-white brilliance swept in from the western horizon. Before they could even ascertain whether it was friend or foe, a burst of frenzied instrumentals came from the clouds above like a tempest, resounding and resonating as a deluge from the heavens, but also akin to a shower of arrows, for they saw no weapons, but it felt as if the glint of blades was everywhere at once, as if they could hear the braying of war steeds and see fire beacons lit up along the walls of the stronghold. "Kunlun Tashue Palace!" Xue Zhengyang's head snapped up to look at that stretch of snowy radiance. This close, he could see that it was indeed a multitude of cultivators riding in on swords, each dressed in robes of frozen mist silk, with peach blossom petals drifting about their persons. All of them, male and female alike, were beautiful and gentle-looking, with their appearances frozen in their early 20s by virtue of their cultivation method. Some of the Tashue Palace disciples stood on their swords, while others sat, half of them cradling pippas in their arms, the other half holding guqins on their knees. The cords streaming forth from the sky above, tumultuous and frenzied yet clear and flowing, making the spirits and undead below shriek in agony, yet keeping them in place as if trapped under an invisible net. The man at their head had striking features with light blonde hair and jade-green eyes. He was clothed in silken robes the color of fresh snow, with a pendant hanging at his forehead like a droplet of water, and within the collars of those robes, his neck was fair and slender, like a fragrant, delicate blossom in a porcelain vase. Kunlun was a snowy, frigid land, so he wore fox fur draped over his shoulders on top of the silken robes, adding even more poised elegance to his appearance. He held a magnificently exquisite pippa in his arms, and his brows were furrowed as he plucked the strings with his slender fingers, luminescent petals of peach blossoms dancing above him with every note. Imperial winds across 4 seas, waters of virtue ever clear, do not Don not the liveries of war, for today we shall triumph. The cords eased off slightly, and he glanced down at Shui Jianyang and company, just about to say something when an irate holler sounded from a distance away. Mei Han Shui, you damn mutt! Why the hell is it you? It was Shui Meng, darting over to stand under Mei Han Shui's sword, even as he kept yelling, tilting his head back to curse. Of all the people out there, Kunlun Tashua Palace sent your unreliable ass? Turning toward the commotion, Ye Wangshi was irritated as well at the sight of that man with his pippa and his fluttering flower petals and snowflakes. It's him. Nan Gongzi, what, another acquaintance of yours? I wouldn't call him an acquaintance. Ye Wangshi was less than pleased to see Mei Han Shui, but unlike Shui Meng, who stomped up to curse him out, he turned around and to leave immediately, only saying, just fought with him once. Nan Gongzi's curiosity was piqued. Oh, how is he? Any good? Huh. Ye Wangshi sneered coldly. He had women do all the fighting for him. How do you think he is? Nan Gongzi, ... Okay, so Mei Han Shui makes his appearance in this chapter. Author's notes. Here it comes, the battle of the heavenly rift that blackened this dog from an ordinary human into Ta Xianjun in the previous lifetime. Stick your neck out, dog. The knife swings downwards. So, to recap chapter 95, the heavenly rift has opened and Moran is having really serious flashbacks because in his previous life, this is where Shimei ended up dying. So, Moran is really worried that Shimei might die again because he's not sure if he's strong enough. Also, it's happening 3 years earlier than expected, so he's not sure what's going on. But what he does know is that he will not let Shimei go to help Chuaning because he believes that Chuaning is partly responsible for Shimei's death. So all of the pining that he had toward Chuaning, all of the affection that he had built up in this lifetime, he's already kind of forgotten it because he's having war flashbacks from his previous life. Also, Mei Han Shui has appeared to help. Kunlun Tashue Palace is here. However, both Ye Wangshi and Shui Meng have some beef to pick with Mei Han Shui, probably because he tried to flirt with them back when they were at the Feathered Tribe. So I'm interested to know more about their dynamics. What did Mei Han Shui say to Shui Meng that got him so riled up? But yeah, a lot is gonna happen in the next coming chapters. I think we're almost done with book 1. So, you know, will history repeat itself again, or will things change this time around? Will Moran succeed in saving Shimei? Will he find out the identity of the fake Gochen who's behind the Zhenlong chess formation? Stick around, guys. We are almost done with book 1, and hopefully we find out in the next few read-alongs. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's read-along, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!